Today I'm going to do an initial impressions and some comparisons and thoughts about the Kershaw Bel Air XL in CPM MagnaCut steel and G10 handle scales. They call this a reverse tanto. The blade length is 3.4 inches and the weight is 3.1 ounces. Here it is with the regular Bel Air 3-inch blade with this clip point style blade shape. I'm not sure if they have a certain name for that. And micarta handle scales. Regular Bel Air reverse tanto with aluminum handle scales. And here's just a view from the top. Some of those shots were kind of hard to tell, so. XL on the right. Here they are at the pivot. And overall length. Here are all three together. With the Benchmade mini bug out. Kershaw leak. Spyderco Para 3 G10. Spyderco Native 5 FRN handles. Spyderco Paramilitary 2. Spyderco Manix 2 lightweight. Benchmade Griptilian. So I have a few thoughts about this thing initially. The action's amazing on this thing. It has this axis type lock system, which they call the Duralock. It works totally fine. Works just like an axis lock to me. In fact, this access point button, whatever you call this outer point of the crossbar, looks exactly identical to what Benchmade uses on theirs. Griptilian. These look totally the same. But these little nub access points don't stick out very far. The Griptilian stick out quite a ways. Some of this is grooved out on the Griptilian, so there's some contouring here. And so it probably needs to stick out more to accept some access. Just fondling this knife initially, I am able to access these very, very easily, even though they don't protrude out very far. And I think that's kind of cool. For me, with my hand and my fingers and my method of movement, these things are quite flush, but they're still very accessible. And you don't bump them when you don't want them, but when you want to find them, it's totally easy to do so. So these things, the protrusion on these, in my opinion, is ideal for me. This G10 is awesome. It has this weird grippy texture feel to it. The textury bumps are smaller and finer in terms of size or grit, if you want to think about it that way. They're very grippy and they're very gritty, but the grit feels fine compared to, say, Spyderco's G10. The grit on those feels coarser. But this still has bite. It still has bite. This will probably wear in and break in, so I don't know what it'll be like after weeks or months of fondling and using and carrying. But right now, it's quite grippy, but it feels fine, which gives it some measure of traction, especially this way, as you can see. At least for me, my thumb kind of slides this way, but it kind of stops this way. Anyway, the G10 on these is very, very well done. Action's awesome. There's bearings in here, so it makes for an unusually smooth action on this crossbar type motion. Does have liners. Does have open design. The knife is quite light for its size. Again, it's 3.1 ounces for 3.4 inch blade length. And it's quite flat and it's quite narrow. This handle to me feels awesome, but when I start squeezing hard in this normal, natural, whatever, hammer type grip, this is fine, I have no problem, until I start to squeeze about 75% of my strength. Still no problem. If I start to squeeze harder than that, then I get some pain here on my pinky finger from these little grooves or handle jimps or whatever that is. If I hold the knife this way, it happens very little. If I turn the knife at all, it starts to happen a lot. Right there, it's very pronounced. So if I have the knife oriented directly in line with my finger knuckles, this row of finger knuckles, it's minorly an issue or problem. But if I cant the knife this much, it starts to happen. To me, this is mostly an issue here, slightly starts to become an issue. If I turn the knife at all, now it's a big issue because my fingers are just lining up with all these flat areas. This handle is extremely secure. The handle is also quite flat and not very, it is a little bit contoured. So it's not the G10 that's the problem because it's contoured and radius, but I think it's the liners maybe make it flat. This contouring does help a lot, but this inner part here is quite angular. So let's talk about this jimping. This jimping does nothing for me. If I push hard, then it starts to keep my finger there, and there's no pain. But if I just hold the knife naturally in a very relaxed state, it doesn't give me any purchase. But it does give me purchase if I start to squeeze and press hard, then it does stop my hand somewhat and it does not hurt at all. There's no pain for me with this jimping. But its aggression or usefulness in terms of traction is low. In my opinion, it's almost useless because it has very little traction, but it does have some, so I'm not going to say it's totally useless, but it also doesn't hurt. So I have no problem with this. There's no pain associated with it, but its level of traction is low. Talked about the action. These thumb studs are awesome. I never miss them. I don't have any failed hits. They are quite flush with the handle. They don't stick way out. Release is great if you just use the crossbar lock. So no issues there. I want to talk about this pocket clip. It's not so much the clip. These clips are actually fine. It's how they have them mounted on the handle. So, as you guys probably know, I'm sure somebody's had to have talked about this. The regular Bel Airs are, I'm going to say, beyond the negative point of deepness. They are so deep that they are beyond flat. The clip sticks up a noticeable amount past the flush zero line. Now, I have no idea how this helps anything. These clips are so deep that to me, it does affect my ability to get to my knife, to index it, to draw it, etc. I do not know who in the knife community needs a pocket clip deeper than this, but I'm sure you are out there. If you need a pocket clip that's deeper than this, or deeper than this, mini bug out. If you need a pocket clip that's deeper than this, these normal sized smaller Bel Airs are the knife for you, because these are so deep I'm going to say they're beyond the 0 point of flush. Thankfully, in my opinion, the XL corrects this problem and has a pocket clip that rides just barely under the flat line, the 0 line. It rides just under this. This is an improvement in my opinion. I don't need pocket clips that ride this deep. Here I have the knives mounted on a cutting board. This is how these knives are riding. Hopefully you can see that. Now I've turned them the other way to simulate how this is what the world will see from the outside of your pocket. XL is in the middle. Now I've mounted the knives on a strip of what I call soda box cardboard. This cardboard's very thin. It's just the packaging that comes in a case of sodas. So this is how they look from this side. This is how they look from the world's side. Now I have to show one more thing. All of these Bel Airs, whether it's the original one or the XL, have clips that have the screws flush. The screws are flush, but the clip itself is not nested. It's not recessed, so the clip itself is sticking out. I wish they would have nested this pocket clip, but they didn't. This is just a $50 to $60 CMB Made Knives Predator. In this case, the screws are not nested, they stick out, but the pocket clip is nested. This is a CJRB Pyrite. It's a $30 knife. Screws are nested and flush. Clip is nested and flush. I'm just going to do a quick demo here with this cardboard. Bear with me. And I know there's lots of factors here. There's handle flatness, handle material, clip shape, who knows what else, but hopefully we get the point. I'm going to put on the perfectly nested one. And this is soda box cardboard. This is not pants, but whatever. This is very thin. This should be easier to clip my knives to than fabric, because I don't know anybody who's carrying knives that has fabric that's this thin, but maybe you're out there. Zero issue, no drag, no snag. CMB Made Knives Predator. Nested clip, but not nested screws. Barely a bump there where I start to hit the screw. Barely a bump there where I start to hit the screw. I would say the level of disturbance or interference is a 1 out of 5. If 5 is bad, this is a 1 out of 5, and it's barely that. It's just, and for what it's worth, I've never had a problem putting this on or off my clothes. I get very little snag on this in the real world, and I carry this knife. This is the titanium one, so it's very slickery, but here we go. Snag, stop. I had to pull quite hard, but a bump, speed bump. Snag, stop. Snag, stop. So that's the aluminum handled one. Here's the micarta handled one. And again, all these Bel Airs have this issue. They all have a non-flush pocket clip, but the screws are flush. So we did the aluminum handled one, micarta, speed bump, stop, 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 speed bump with a minor stop. XL. This clip, by the way, fits more tightly. I don't know why. I don't know if it's the G10. The G10 is probably grippier than the micarta for sure, and certainly more than this. So I think the friction we're seeing here at the push point is probably just due to the grippiness texture of the G10. Because as far as I can tell, these clips are identical. It's hard to get this started. It's hard to get this started because it's tight and grippy. But so let me actually fudge it up. There we go. I don't want my extra force that it's taken me to push past this entry point. I don't want that to interfere with this comparison that I'm doing. So I'm going to cheat and get it started. Stop, snag. Well, let's do it at full speed and see what happens. Stop, snag. Stop, snag. That time I had to pull quite hard to get it over the pocket clip. So the point I'm making is that these things snag on my pocket lip on insertion and withdrawals. So a lot of you guys are probably going to buy aftermarket clips anyway, but the aftermarket clips probably aren't going to be recessed in there. I'm not an aftermarket clip guy, so I don't know. But the scales aren't accommodated for it, so you might have to get aftermarket scales too. I don't know. I don't usually do that, but just be aware, this pocket clip thing to me is a big deal. That's why I spent several minutes talking about it. Just going to do a couple deployments here because I haven't been doing very many with the camera rolling. So do left-handed one. I think it's very drop sheddy. I get a lot of bounce back with this one. I think there's something about it that makes me keep this depressed too long. So the bounce back here is just because I keep this thing held too long. It's my user error. For some reason I get less on the little ones. I just can, these close for me somehow. It's probably just due to the length of the handle and how it fits in my hand. I don't know. So I'm getting bounce back, so that's probably just me and my hand and maybe a length of the knife issue, but this one does give me bounce back and it's hard for me to, there we go. This one's hard for me to train myself to let go of this appropriately to not get, because I'm continuing to hold this back, the thing can't close. That's me, that's my user error, or it's an imbalance between how this handle fits in my hand and me. So your mileage may vary. The action on this is fine. I'm not gonna ding that for that bounce back, but for me, bounce back's kind of an issue because it can be kind of dangerous, but there, I'm starting to get it. I think if you fidget with yours, you'll probably get it. These ones are fine. I have very little bounce back with these guys. Crap, I forgot the edge. Out of the box, this knife has not cut a single thing. This factory edge is very, very, very sharp. It's quite polished, but the apex still feels very, very thin. So even though I'm running my finger this way, even though it's quite polished, I'm scared to put too much pressure because the apex feels very thin. Grabs my finger pads very well this way at a low angle. I suspect this thing's gonna shave like a demon. And it does. With the very, very lightest contact, this thing shaves. So I would give this, on my scale of sharpness, a 5 means it shaves easily and readily, and it shaves better than that. So I'd give this a 5+ on the factory edge. Very well done, Kershaw. This thing is freaking sharp. Well done. Magna cut steel, which as far as I know, all the Bel Airs are, but maybe I'm wrong. Lanyard, I almost forgot. This thing has a generously shaped lanyard groove cutout that, in my opinion, is well placed. I'm not a lanyard guy, but I think this lanyard is positioned in such a way that you still have a normal, reasonable pocket clip. I think the lanyard hole is sized appropriately. With just a little finagling, you can fit a loop of it in there. This particular piece of paracord has a quite wide melt nub, so get that through just fine, no problem. If you have 4-strand paracord, 270, 275 weight, I can't remember the numbers. No problem at all. This is totally easy. Of course, that's no problem. Guess I'll tie this on there so you can see how it sits. So the way I tied it, the angle I tied it, I don't know if that's how you would do it. You need your loop small enough that it doesn't let the thing swing up there. And since this is spaced on the bottom half, you'd need to have a huge gaping loop to make it so big that it would swing up here to get cut by this blade. So to me, this is perfectly well placed. Hopefully those of you who are lanyard freaks, geeks, nuts will be able to see the usefulness or unusefulness of this lanyard hole placement. But for me, this is perfectly fine. This is how the lanyard sits, the way I tied it. I don't even know if that's the right angle for you. That's just how I would have done it. Hopefully that helps you. A couple people who care about such things. Overall, this knife is amazing. I love it. The only problems I have with it are this hurts my finger in tight grips and hard tight grip use pressure. The jimps don't work very well, but I don't care because I don't need jimping. So I'm just bringing that up because some of you are going to care about that. Some of you who care about jimping, this jimping doesn't do very much, if anything. So you probably will not like that, but it does not hurt. So I don't care. It's not in the way. Clip not being flush bums me out, but it's not a deal killer, but it does create enough drag on my pockets that is annoying. And since I haven't carried this knife a lot, I don't know how much it's going to bother me, but just from what I've initially done, which is some light and a little bit of carrying, it has bothered me already. So those two things together, just with my initial impressions, I would call this an A-. If this continued to bother me in my real life, I would probably lower it to a B+. Because it doesn't make it so it's not usable, but it does slow down your insertion, and it does kind of be annoying. But A- overall on this thing. Awesome. I love it. Well designed. It's a great size. Clip is not so deep that it's past the middle point, so I'm glad they fixed that. I don't think I have anything else to say about this knife. I love it. I hope you guys are able to get your hands on one, and I cannot wait for them to come out with other versions. To my knowledge, this is the only version they have right now, but I think they're coming out with many more options as they have with these other Bel Airs. So these things are going for about 150, 160 bucks, I think, for most dealers, 160-ish. So I did buy this myself. So that's my thoughts on Bel Air XL. Sorry this was a long video, but I had some things I wanted to talk about, some comparisons I wanted to make. Well, I love it. I'm excited about it. I think it's very well designed, very well executed. A-. Thanks for watching.